Tammy Rogers, Thomm Jutz here in Studio B. We ready for another song?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to do one now that we just, on the recording, did it just as a straight duo. So, and it's also a gospel tune, so that's kind of a cool thing about it. It's one called The Tree of Life. The tree of life is there for showing where we're from and why we're here. The tree of life is ever growing through the ages, through the years. When they walked through the garden, they knew well what not to do, but they didn't fall for Satan's offer when they ate the forbidden fruit. The tree of life is there for showing where we're from and why we're here. The tree of life is ever growing through the ages, through the years. When he walked up to that hillside, he didn't know what was to come. Hanging on that wooden cross, he said, Father, thy will be done. The tree of life is there for showing where we're from and why we're here. The tree of life is ever growing through the ages, through the years, through the ages, through the years.
Live in Studio B, Thomm Jutz and Tammy Rogers here on WNCW. I was just reading your notes, your liner notes in the album for that song, The Tree of Life. Interesting insights, I think. As interesting as almost as the song
thank
lyrics
you.
themselves. You reference the Tree of Life in different scenarios, different, what's the word I'm looking for? Contexts, I guess you'd say.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
So that, quite a bit of thought going into, writing that song.
Well, the tree of life is a symbol in many different cultures, and in Christian mythology, it's sin entered the world through the tree of life and sin left the world through the tree of life, through the cross. But that's not just something that's inherent to Christian mythology. And the tree of life is the tree under which the Buddha found enlightenment, for instance, to Buddhists. So there's a lot of things in those symbols that are beautiful and thought-provoking. And also, to me, an interesting interpretation of the tree of life is that, it moves horizontally, and that's how we move through life, but it also moves vertically, and that's how we move from this existence to potentially another one. And it's also the way the breath goes it goes up and down and down and up, and so there's a lot of things, and it's interesting to us to write these old sounding things with these new thoughts in mind and the old thoughts in mind, and I always think that innovation requires preservation, and that's what we can do as songwriters to contribute to that, to write in these old forms of country music that are really dear to folks like Tammy and me.
That's cool. I hear the old style, but also enough modern edge on how you arrange that it certainly makes it friendly for maybe more folks than if it was done purely like old time or something like that.
No, absolutely, and I think that's what's interesting. Obviously to us is, I'm not really interested in rewriting Wildwood Flower.
Right.
I mean, how can you improve upon, Maybelle and Sarah and AP? I mean, that's the classic version, and I absolutely...
Well, Jim Stafford took a stab at it years ago, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's what's kept me interested in music all these years. I mean, obviously, I have great affinity for, those classic recordings, but I don't want to keep recreating. I want to do something new and fresh, and certainly there's a nod to all those things, but I love to read a lot, and as does Tom, and I love lots of different styles of music, so it's bound to show up in there somewhere, and that's what's fun for me.
And you all come from kind of diverse backgrounds. You're a Tennessee girl, aren't you?
Yes, East Tennessee. Yeah.
And Tom is from Germany.
Yeah, I was raised by wolves in the Black Forest of Germany.
He's got a T-shirt to prove it. Yes.
I do. Well, yes, I was born there, but I'm not sure that where we're born physically is always necessarily
right.
the place where our spirit belongs, and my spirit got a little wake up call when I was about 11 years old and saw Bobby Bare play country music on a TV show in Germany. I was like, oh, that's what I want to do.
That's out there.
And from that moment on, and I'm not even kidding, that's all I ever did and all I ever wanted to do. And I worked with Bear a little bit and got to know him, and he's very uncomfortable when I tell him that story because he doesn't want to take that responsibility of changing somebody's life. But I think he's also tickled about it. And anyway, it's an interesting thing. American music is so alive, and it's so much a part of people's lives, especially in Appalachia and in the South. And it's beautiful to be able to tap into that, and to some extent also be welcomed by that community. And obviously you want to put your work into it, and you don't just want to be a musical tourist. And I think over the last 20 years I'd like to believe that I put my work into it, and I hope I'm the Germany thing and the Raised by Wolves, that's always going to be something it's a good story, but I hope we're at a point now where my work is being evaluated on its own merits.
Well, sure, as a human being.
Yes, exactly. That's what I dedicated my life to, So,
yeah.
But anyway.
The interesting thing, writing with Tom as an aside, I was thinking about it this morning. It's like there has, and I kid you not, like I said, we've written over 150 tunes now, a 4 or 5 year partnership here, and there's never been a single moment of writing with Tom that it's ever entered my mind he's German.
Right.
Or he's never asked, is this how you would say this? Or is this the correct terminology? Ever. He's so well versed in particularly Southern language and colloquialisms and the culture that it's absolutely that thought is non-existent.
And that was absolutely apparent on To Live in Two Worlds, Volume 1 and 2.
Oh, thank you.
You just nailed it.
Yeah, he did.
I'm well versed in sausage gravy and craft beer and bourbon and all those things too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm a 360 kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Y'all, you say you've been writing together 4 or 5 years, and you've known each other a few years, probably a little longer than that. But when did you discover that your voices are so complementary with each other? I mean, was that right away?
A couple months ago.
That's true. Yeah, that's actually true. When you write, you sing together, but you don't necessarily think about it as a third instrument. But when you record together, I think that's when you figure out, oh, okay, I think we got something here. And I think Emma Lou's the one who who gave it that term, the third instrument. That happens when you sing well with
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
You certainly. I mean, it was, as soon as I started listening to, well, before I got the album, of course, I had the lead off single and the title song, and it's been in our bluegrass rotation now for weeks. But
Thank you.
sure, I love it. But I was like, listen to their harmony together, and I also will say, you do some lead vocal on some of the tracks, and it's nice. I love your voice, and it's nice to hear you. It seems like
I
to
was
me,
coerced.
Yes.
well, you have a beautiful voice, and it's nice to hear you do more lead vocals.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that.